here, another episode 45. What's going on, everybody? I hope everyone's having a terrific week here on this Wednesday morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you're listening to this. I hope it's catching you in a good place. For those who don't know, I am your host, Connor Gilbert. If you're a new listener, thank you for checking out the podcast. If you want to subscribe on all platforms, you can. If you don't want to, then don't. If you're a returning listener, appreciate the support. This podcast is presented by The Grapevine Media. Go check us out over there, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. And do me a favor, if you like the show, I said a few episodes ago to go give the subscribe button on YouTube a spinning heel kick, and I still stand by that. But in honor of Nick Diaz fighting this weekend, I'm going to say go give the subscribe button on all platforms. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, Breaker, Podbean, everywhere. Go give it a Stockton slap for your boy, all right? Not just for Nick Diaz, but from give it a Stockton slap. Subscribe to Who Gives a Dram if you like the show. Weekly whiskey content, and also talking about other things too. That should be the tagline of Who Gives a Dram. Weekly whiskey content, and also talking about other things too. I wonder how that would go over in iTunes and Spotify and things like that. But regardless, we're here. We're on episode 45. We are on the best episode of all time, okay? This podcast, Who Gives a Dram. Who Gives a Dram is the best whiskey podcast out, okay? The stats say it. The fake news won't mention it, okay? The fake news won't say that Who Gives a Dram is the number one podcast in the world. Joe Rogan can shove it. All those true crime podcasts out there, they can eat dicks. It's Who Gives a Dram, number one podcast in the world. It's terrific. It's the best podcast in the world. Anyone who says otherwise, fake news. Go subscribe to Who Gives a Dram. That was my first Donald Trump impression ever. I don't do impressions, all right? I don't do impressions. It's one thing I don't do is impressions. I just did one for you guys for episode 45. I don't know how I look. I can't see myself when I'm recording right now. I'm going to listen. I'm going to go back while editing this podcast, which I do minimally. You guys know this. I don't edit this podcast. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to cringe, but I'm still going to release this because this is the number one podcast in the world. You got to watch the YouTube video because I know I don't sound like him, but my hand, it's about the hand signals, you know? Today's episode 45. That's the whole reason for that debacle that just happened. That just happened, by the way. Today's episode 45. And we're 45 episodes in, obviously. 45 episodes in, 45 whiskey reviews down, and I kind of, 45 is not a huge number. We're still 5 away from episode 50, which I do have I hope a pretty big podcast for that episode. So stay tuned for that. But I was like, it's 45. It's a nice number. It's a nice round number. It's just there, 45. Let's do a good whiskey this week. Let's review a good whiskey this week. I love wheated bourbons. I love wheated whiskeys. Weller Special Reserve is what we're doing today. And if you guys know anything about anything, even if you know whiskey a little bit, you will know that Weller is what to buy right now. Weller is a hot commodity, to say the least. But even just a few years ago, you could find this bottle for a drastically different price and a drastically different availability. We'll get into it later in the podcast. We'll get into the ins and outs of Weller Special Reserve, exactly what we're drinking. But before we get into the whiskey, let's talk about the week. What happened this week? What are we talking about this week? NFL Week 2 happened, and the Giants lost again, albeit a closer game. Albeit Daniel Jones didn't look as bad. Now, did I watch it? No. Did I forget that they were playing on Thursday Night Football? Yes. Did I care? No. But I watched the highlights the next day, and they still looked like the Giants, and that's disappointing. I know if any of my friends out there who are Giants fans, my first two friends that come to mind that are Giants fans with me are my buddies Ethan and Mike. You guys know who you are. I don't know if you listen to the podcast, but shout out to both you guys. We've been going through a lot the past, however many years the Giants have sucked. Even when the Giants won the Super Bowls, they weren't good. They were wild card teams both years. They just got hot at the right time. The Patriots look good. Mac Jones looked good. I thought the best game of the week was by far the Cardinals versus the Vikings. I could not take my eyes off that game. And I'm still saying I think the Cardinals are gonna be front runners for Super Bowl champions. So they play great. The Vikings are a tough team. Adam Thielen is a top 10 wide receiver in the league. Nobody can take that away from me. And then also the Chiefs and Ravens game last night, Monday night, was a good game as well. I have a fantasy team. Do you guys play fantasy football? I'm assuming a lot of people do who listen to this. Well, I also have a lot of people who aren't listening in America. So if you guys find this boring, I'm sorry. Let me know. Maybe we can talk about soccer or cricket or something. But I don't watch soccer. I tried playing soccer when I was a kid. And this is a story coming from my mom. This is the type of kid I was. I would play soccer as a kid, right? I was kind of forced to play soccer from what I can remember. And we'd play down at the local community field, and I would play, and I just decided I didn't want to play anymore. So this is what I did. I stopped in the middle of the field, and I just went like this. Started pouting up a storm. If you're not watching the video podcast, I crossed my arms like I was like a little kid when they get mad, and just kind of like look down the ground and imagine like I'm kicking the dirt a little bit, like I'm pouting. That's what I did. I never played soccer again. So I don't watch soccer, but I do play fantasy football. That's the point I was trying to make. And I do a family league, and in my league, I have Russell Wilson's my quarterback. I'm just going to tell you guys my team right now so you guys can follow along this year with me. I have Russell Wilson as my quarterback. My two running backs are, Najee Harris and, this is embarrassing. The running back from the Ravens. Not the Ravens. I can't remember. I'm put on the spot and I can't remember. What's his name? Is it the Ravens? I don't remember. He's one of the top running backs in the league. And someone will tell me in the comments or in my DMs who I'm talking about, and I'll feel like an idiot. I have Mike Evans and the Falcons wide receiver, Calvin Ridley, as my two wide receivers. My tight end is the new tight end in Washington. Forgot his name. Does pretty good, though. I have the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which is not good. And my flex player that I put in every week that I picked up off of waivers, this is an 8-team league, I picked him off of waivers, is Rob Gronkowski, my smartest move of all time. So I got Evans and Gronk playing for me. Anybody who's playing with Brady is guaranteed points in my eyes. And I'm doing pretty good. I'm 1-1 right now. I won last week. Thanks to Mike Evans had a huge game, and Gronk had a touchdown, and Russell Wilson had a pretty good week, even though they lost. It's a good week. It's a good weekend of football. Didn't drink anything, you guys. Didn't drink a drop of whiskey last week. I said last week on the podcast, I'm starting my powerlifting routine, and I always feel better when I'm essentially sober when I'm trying to train hard. The first month of this program is killer. I'm just getting back from a workout right now. I literally just got home, walked upstairs, grabbed my stuff, set up the camera. We're rolling. No prep. And I'm hungry. I'm tired. It's a #late night podcast. and we're just rolling by the seat of our pants right now. We're swinging. We're just swinging blindly. I don't know what we're talking about. But I felt better when I was sober. So I told you guys I was going to try to do it. And there was a time where I wanted to have a little bit of whiskey. But I told myself that I told my listeners I was going to do my best to go at least the first week. And I did. So no whiskey this week. This is going to be the first whiskey that I've had since the last time we recorded, which was a week ago today. So that's exciting. I'm curious to see if that's going to change my palate at all, because I'm used to drinking whiskey, 3, 4, 5 times a week. But I feel good. The powerlifting routine is going well. Shout out to Team Bolduc, Seth, Ryan, and Trevor, and me. Putting in the work. And it's nice to have that nice just feeling after a long day of work. You get the workout in. It's lifting heavy shit. It's just nice. Shout out to Earn Your Booze on Instagram. They are a great follow on Instagram if you like workout material and you like whiskey material. So I kind of look through their page when I'm in that phase of like lifting, but also whiskey. It's just a good page, and they're good people over there. So shout out to you guys over there at Earn Your Booze. Earn Your Booze. I definitely earned my booze tonight. I for sure earned my booze tonight. And this might be a shorter episode because I'm tired. I'm very tired. I'm trying to think of anything else that happened. I don't think anything else happened this week. It was a boring week. The next time I talk to you guys, by the way, I will be a quarter of a century old. I will be 25 years old by the time episode 46 releases, and we're 46 whiskey reviews in. And I still honestly have not processed that. The fact that I'm going to be 25 it feels normal to me, but it's also shocking at the same time. And it's kind of funny how I'll look back at this podcast, hopefully when I turn 35. And I look back at episode 45 and I'm like, holy shit. I turned 25 and I was nervous for what's to come then. And I am a bit nervous, I guess. I have a year left on my parents' insurance. So my job provides insurance, but I just like to go with my parents just because. It just feels, every single year now feels like I should have my shit together more and more. And the fact of the matter is, you guys, I don't. Don't have my shit together. That's okay, though. Who does have their shit together? For being honest, who has their shit together? Nobody does. I could go to every person in the world, say, honestly, can you tell me honestly that you have your shit together? And I guarantee they would say, no. You go to sorry, I'm trying not to cuss on the podcast. Call me out if I cuss from now on, you guys. You could go to freaking Steve Jobs. Oh, man. Haven't even had whiskey yet. Steve Jobs is dead. Wow. I'm going to pour the whiskey. Oh, by the way, before I get into this, you could go to, what's his name, who owns Amazon, Jeff Bezos. The guy who wore a cowboy hat to space. And did he even go to space? No. I don't think he went to space. I think he just did a billionaire. I think he did a Billy Strut, Conor McGregor Billy Strut, Or it's actually the Vince McMahon Billy Strut, for being honest. He's the one who coined it. Up to what's barely space, barely entered. And then pulled right out and said, oh, we did it. Just like I was when I was 16. I don't think Jeff Bezos went to space, okay? I don't. However, the fact that he's essentially an evil villain wearing a cowboy hat up to space, I love. So, why are we talking about Jeff Bezos? Oh, because I guarantee I could go to Jeff Bezos and say, Jeff Bezos, you have $100 billion. You have whatever. You have a droopy eye, and you for some reason look like you always know information that only you know that none of us know, and it's evil. You look like the human Dr. Evil. So, Jeff Bezos, aka aka real life Dr. Evil. Jeff Bezos, aka real life Dr. Evil. Do you have your shit together? And he'd say, no. At least if he was any type of man, he would. Maybe a liar would say, yeah, I got my shit together. But, so we're gonna get into the whiskey here for a little bit. I have an issue with this, though, because I remember... Okay, so I bought this bottle of Weller. Oh, man, I don't remember what I paid for it. I bought it, like, around this time last year, probably, around Christmas. Well, it was probably more towards, like, November I bought this bottle. I didn't know it was a screw top at the time, but if you're watching the video podcast, you'll see it just kind of pops off now. Like, it's solid on there. I can get it on there, and it doesn't... It's hard to come off, so I'm positive that the juice inside is good, but it does kind of, like, it doesn't twist off. I guess it does, but it's neither here nor there. But Weller Special Reserve, is there anything special about this whiskey? Not that I know of. Special Reserve is kind of just like a tagline that they use to sell more bottles. But Weller Special Reserve is the, oh, I really gotta let this sit. Not a lot on the nose. Weller Special Reserve is the bottom shelfer of Weller. So if you guys don't know Weller, Weller is essentially a brand that is named after W.L. Weller, or William LaRue Weller. Who is one of the first, bourbon distillers in the country, and he was one of the first that really used wheat as a dominant ingredient in the mash bill. A wheated bourbon is any bourbon that has wheat as the second most dominant ingredient. The three most famous wheated bourbons that I know of are, I would say the most famous is probably Maker's Mark. They say they're the original, but so does Weller. It says it right on their bottle, the original wheated bourbon. But Maker's Mark, in terms of sales, is probably the most popular. And then Weller, and then Larceny. So those three are all wheated bourbons. And wheated bourbon is becoming a trend now. I see a lot more wheated bourbons out on the shelves. I'm assuming because of the popularity of Weller, and the fact that, the Larceny Barrel Proof did just win Whiskey of the Year a few years ago. So pairing all that together, I wouldn't be surprised if we see several more wheated bourbons coming out in the future. But the three most popular ones right now are Maker's Mark, Weller, and Larceny. And in terms of Weller, William LaRue Weller was created, and it was eventually bought out by another company. Stitzel, I don't remember the actual name of it, but I can find it here in a second. One of the first people that William LaRue Weller had work for him is a man by the name of Julian Van Winkle. Now, if you know Julian Van Winkle, if you know that name, then I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. For those of you who don't know the Van Winkle name, this guy was more well known as Pappy. Pappy Van Winkle, obviously, one of the most, if not the most popular bourbon of all time. So Pappy Van Winkle began his career working for William LaRue Weller Julian Van Winkle began his career working for William LaRue Weller. And that distilling company was called W.L. Weller and Sons. So that's the distilling company that originally made Weller. Now, they later merged with A.P.H. Stitzel Distillery. I believe it was after William LaRue Weller died, which was in the late 1800s. And that Stitzel Distillery was owned by none other than Julian Van Winkle, a.k.a. Pappy Van Winkle. The companies came together during Prohibition to have a medicinal license so they could continue to they could continue to distill bourbon during Prohibition, and it later became known as the Stitzel Weller Distilling Company in that time frame, and in the Prohibition time frame. Now Buffalo Trace is in charge of everything that Stitzel Weller was distilling, most notably Weller and Pappy Van Winkle. It all falls under the Buffalo Trace umbrella. So Special Reserve, again, is kind of the bottom shelf of the Weller lineup. The Weller lineup consists of Weller Special. I'm going to go from bottom to top, according to what other people say. Weller Special Reserve, what we have here today, the bottom shelfer. Then we have Weller Antique 107. If you're watching the video podcast, we'll have it right here. Weller Antique 107. We're not going to do a tasting test today, but that is something that we will do in the future once I get my hands on another Weller bottle. Oh. And this is Captain America as a Lego. If you're watching the video podcast. Weller Antique 107 is kind of the second tier up. One of my favorite bourbons that we might be doing on an episode in the near future. And then we got Weller 12 year, which became very popular a few years back, and I'll tell you why in a second. Then Weller Full Proof. Then we had Weller Crafted Perfect Bourbon, or CYPB. And then most recently, Weller Single Barrel. Weller Full Proof became very popular because the Weller lineup has the same exact mash bill as the Pappy Van Winkle lineup. So a lot of people say that Weller is the poor man's Pappy. If you can't find a few $100 bottle of Pappy, then why not settle for a $50 or $60 bottle of Weller? So Weller Full Proof sales went through the roof. Once those ran out, the 107 sales went through the roof. And then once those ran out, down to the bottom shelfer. Now, I say bottom shelfer with all due respect. I mean, we have done several bottom shelf whiskeys here on the podcast that are fantastic. Mellow Corn is like $12. If you haven't watched the Mellow Corn episode, go check it out. It's an all-time classic, in my eyes. I had a lot of fun recording that episode. Evan Williams Bottled and Bond is $17.99, and it's a fantastic Bottled and Bond, if not one of my favorite Bottled and Bond whiskeys. So, bottom shelf, Wild Turkey 101, which we haven't done on the podcast yet, but we will soon. A bottom shelfer that is universally recognized as a very solid pour of whiskey. Bottom shelfer doesn't necessarily relate to quality. It just relates to price. And typically these bottom shelfers are lower in proof. There's not much to them. You might have one or two dominant tasting notes and that's it. But that's okay because they're bottom shelfers. They're not meant to have the uniqueness and the complexity of something like a William LaRue Weller, which is the top of the food chain in the Wellerverse. And I'm coining that now, the Wellerverse. Just like the Snyderverse, the Wellerverse. I guarantee Batman drinks William LaRue Weller. We know that Alfred drinks Talisker. That was confirmed in the Snyder Cut. It's actually one of the first things me and my brother noticed. We saw Alfred was drinking whiskey, and we're like, all right, what whiskey's he drinking? We're looking for the bottle. Right off the bat, Talisker Storm. Very solid space side scotch? Scotch, whatever. Batman would definitely drink William LaRue Weller. I think he's too elegant for a barrel proof, for something like an Elijah Craig barrel proof or like a Larceny barrel proof. And he's too rich for something like a Buffalo Trace or Eagle Rare. But I think he wouldn't be snobby enough to only drink Pappy. So I think he would just buy all the William LaRue Weller, because universally it's, I think William LaRue Weller and Stagg and George T. Stagg are kind of like the best of the antique collections. I don't know that for a fact. I was lucky enough to try a pour of the 2017 release of William LaRue Weller. That sat at least upper 120s, if not lower 130s in terms of proof. I don't remember that night very well. And for those of you who are listening who understand that joke, I hope you got a laugh at that. I don't remember that night very well. Nevertheless, I do remember pouring that whiskey. I think I videoed it and put it on my Instagram, which is at @WhoGivesADram if you're not already following me. But let's get into the notes here. This bottom shelf Weller. And like I said, this is just a very basic nose. Very Buffalo Tracy. It's very, very sweet. I get a lot of sweetness on it. Molasses is jumping out to me. Caramel is jumping out to me. A little bit of ethanol, a little bit of a, alcohol-y smell, but that is to be assumed with a lower priced and proof bourbon. This is 45% alcohol by volume or 90 proof. MSRP, that is a whole different story. MSRP on this is, it used to be like $20. Now people are selling it for $120. It's all, if we're going to go by strict MSRP, we're going to go by what the actual price is, and I'm going to say $25 to $30. Now, you will find this for 10 times that price and places, strictly based on the Weller name. We will tell you, or by we, I mean me, will tell you if it's worth $250. Let's taste it. On the nose, actually a nice little fruitiness on there as well, almost like a cherry. Now I'm giving it some swirly poos. It almost smells like a cologne too, like not a muskiness, like a damp musky, like a wet wood, but like a very pungent. Maybe that's a fruit that I'm getting. Like, obviously how cologne smells. It's almost like a really, really, really honed in fruit. I kind of get this. I wonder if they make a Weller cologne. I'd buy it. But yeah, on the nose, it's not much. It's very light, very pleasant, very inviting, very nice. I like it a lot. But let's give it a taste. Is this worth the 10 times MSRP that we're seeing it for nowadays? Cheers, you guys. Shalanta, thank you for checking out episode 45 of Who Gives a Dram. Let's drink some whiskey. It's really good. Now, I might be swayed a little bit because I haven't had whiskey in a week, but that was so good. The wheat and corn. I love wheated bourbons, man. Now it's hot in my throat right now, and that's because I haven't had whiskey in a bit. But man, this is good stuff. Very vanilla and caramel forward, and that we've had some whiskeys where the nose does not translate to the palate. This is the exact opposite. The nose translates 100% to the palate. Very bright, sweet notes, molasses, caramel, sugar, vanilla, right off the top. What's nice is that it does have a bit of a barrel finish to it, like a barrel spice. It's not spicy, but it does have a little bit of a lingering heat that I can tell. Oh, this is like candy in a bottle. Excuse me. It tastes like candy in a bottle to me right now. This is delicious. I'm really enjoying this. Yeah, it's not very hot. It's 90 proof. Shouldn't be hot. Yeah, this is just, I mean, this tastes like one of the best bottom shelfers. Let's put it that way. I am a wheated bourbon fan by nature, so this rating might be a little bit higher. While compared to other Buffalo Trace products, I mean, this is just different. Buffalo Trace is a bit. Eagle Rare has a much more present oak, being a 10-year bourbon. Buffalo Trace is a bit more prickly as well. All three are sweet by nature. There is no age statement on this. I read in an article somewhere, maybe I watched it in a video, that the rumor is 6 to 7 years for Weller Special Reserve. Don't know if that's fact or not. But this is different than other Buffalo Trace products in terms of there's absolutely no rye spice. There's no rye in here regardless. This is the wheated Buffalo Trace mash bill, which is undisclosed in terms of percentages, but corn, wheat, and malted barley are the three dominant ingredients. There's no rye. So there's no spice to this. The spice that I am getting is in fact a barrel spice type of kick to it at the end right there. Very pleasant. Not much going on. I like it a lot. I saw Weller Special Reserve. I saw a handle of it for like $55 a few weeks ago. I should have bought it. I didn't. I'm milking this bottle because, it is cool to find a bottle that you can't find, that everyone's hyping about. Once you find it for a good price, it's cool. You want to hang on to it. I have a backup of my 107 right now. My brother's got another Special Reserve. He might even have a backup in his collection. So we've got plenty of Weller. But the Special Reserve, there's something to be said about a quote-unquote bottom shelf bourbon that is this good. Now, with that being said, the ultimate question is, Connor, is this worth secondary pricing? Now, I will admit, I recently just got into the whiskey game. I got serious about whiskey a few months before I started Who Gives a Dram, so I've been serious about whiskey for a year. A little over a year. I don't remember when Weller was readily available. And I'm not going to lie and pretend like I do remember, because I don't. Since I've really been into whiskey, Weller has been a bourbon you've had to hunt for. And it just becomes expected that when you see it, it's going to be inflated in price by a lot. So I don't want to say that I remember when Weller was readily available, but I do know, based on a lot of the channels that I follow, a lot of the articles that I read, that, this was at one time available for $19.99 on the bottom shelf. Now we're looking at, you can probably get away with paying $40 for this. $40 is probably the max I would go. I don't know if I would go 50. It's tough for me to go more than 50 or 60 with 107. I don't know if I could go more than 50 with Special Reserve. Maybe 45 in a pinch, if it was pay week. But if we're talking, we're gonna give two instances for a rating, and then put them together and give it one rating. The first instance is finding this at MSRP. Finding this for $25 to $30 would be a steal. And I think even $30 is a very, very fair, if not undervalued price for this Weller Special Reserve. This is good stuff. If you like if you like a sweeter bourbon, then this is what you want. This is absolutely what you want. We're drinking it neat right now. I'd imagine this is terrific in cocktails. And it's just high enough proof where you put a little ice in this, put it on the rocks or put a little water in it. It's just going to proof it down enough where it's an enjoyable maybe 80 proof. This is a great whiskey to start your night with. Now, the other instance is that you find this for, you find it at MSRP, but maybe you find it once a year at MSRP. So you got to weigh those two things in together, and that's got to be a part of the score. My integrity is too high to just give this a very good score because I like the juice. My integrity is too high. I cannot do that to my loyal listeners here at Who Gives a Dram. With that being said, I'm milking this podcast because I want to drink whiskey, and I'm not going to drink whiskey after this. With that being said, I think this Weller for right now in today's day and age, September 2021, this day and age with the availability that it's at, combined with the quality of the juice that's in here, I'm going to give this... I want to give it higher than this, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna give it an 8.5. If this was readily available, it would easily be in the 9s. It would easily be you gotta buy this whiskey. I can't do it because I can't find it. It breaks my heart to do that, Weller Special Reserve. I do love you, and I will always have you. But availability has got to be a part of these. It's got to be a part of these reviews. So 8.5 here for Weller Special Reserve. And that does it for really the review part of this podcast. What are we at? 37 minutes. Holy crap. We got to start wrapping it up. Other than that, you guys, like I said, this is going to be the last podcast of my 24th year of life. The next time I talk to you, I will be 25 years old. And I'm going to tell you exactly what my birthday plans are right now. I'm going to lay it out on the podcast. It's already set in stone. Next Monday, September 27th, is my birthday. And here is how I plan on spending my weekend. Friday night, Midnight Mass comes out on Netflix. Midnight Mass is the new TV show created by the creator of The Haunting of Hill House and The Haunting of Bly Manor. Two of my favorite shows of all time. Last year, me and my mom watched Bly Manor in one sitting. We got big candles, put them over the fireplace, started a fire even though it was warm, and we watched Bly Manor from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 1 o'clock in the morning. And it was fantastic. So we are going to do that again this Friday. I'm going to maybe have a drink then. I don't know. I might not. But that's Friday's plan. Saturday and Sunday, your boy's lifting. Like I said, once I turn 25, are people going to say, Connor, you're 25 years old. Connor, you're 25. I'm like, dude, are you talking about my age or the size of my arms? I don't know. So I got to work on getting these arms from 24 to 25. It doesn't just come overnight. But so this weekend I'll be lifting. I'll be enjoying just the time off. Monday, pretty sure I'll be working. But Monday night, I will be enjoying time with my family. We're going to have burgers on the grill for dinner. I told my mom, listen, Mom, I don't want an ice cream cake this year. I don't want a cake because I'm just going to eat the whole goddamn thing. And it's just going to be throughout the week. I'm going to have a piece of cake every single day for a week. I don't want that. Give me a pumpkin pie blizzard for my birthday. Stick a candle in that sucker. I'll blow it out. I'll eat the pumpkin pie blizzard and we'll be done. So that's what we're doing. And I will be drinking this little vial right here. If you're watching the video podcast, you'll see it. I'm holding it up. If you're not watching the video podcast, I will tell you what it is right now. This is I'm holding in my hand right now a very generous sample that was given to me by my good friend Ron at Wyoming Package Store in Wyoming, Rhode Island. This is a sample of the 2021 release of Colonel E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. I was thinking about doing it on the podcast, in all honesty, and I still might if I don't drink this whole thing. But if I'm being honest, I'm going to drink this whole thing on Monday night. It's about 1.5 ounces, if not 1.75 ounces. And you know what? This is a unicorn to me. This is one of my unicorns. And I was thinking about a very special time to celebrate it. I thought, what better way to celebrate than on my 25th birthday with my family having a pour of this. So that's what I'm going to be doing on Monday night, you guys. I'm going to be having a pour of Colonel E.H. Taylor Barrel Proof. I cannot wait. I've been opening this and smelling it every single day. I can't wait. And I'm also going to be enjoying a Pappy Van Winkle cigar. My favorite cigars on the market. They taste like hay, and that's how I like my cigars to taste. But I won't be smoking it with this. I'll drink this first. I'll drink most of it first, and then I'll have a secondary pour after that. So that's what my weekend looks like, you guys. Feel free to wish me happy birthday. It's not a big deal. Oh, whatever. 25 years old. Kind of a big deal. Not really a big deal. Whatever. But I hope you guys have as good of a weekend and a beginning to next week as I'm going to have, because that's going to do it for this podcast. I got to go eat my turkey and rice for dinner. I got to go to bed. This podcast is not going to release itself, so I got to go upload it. Nick Bossy, playing me out like always. What Happens to Country. Follow him on Instagram, Nick Bossy Music. And make sure you guys are checking out The Grapevine Media, www.thegrapevinemedia.com. But until next week, you guys, thank you for checking out the podcast. I love drinking whiskey with each and every single one of you. And always remember, whiskey is the water of life. So let's start living.
My hands are tired from paying my bills, staring at a bottle, I'm aiming to kill. The weeks passing by and the seasons keep changing. I'm playing my song, trying to make me a name. People say as they walk out the bar, the kid's gone places, maybe even a star. They don't play country down in Nashville today, just the same chord progression with nothing to say. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. They use auto-tune now down on Music Row, 'cause true country died there a long time ago. No, they don't play Waylon on the boulevard, but they'll do anything to be rock stars. What happened to country? 3 chords and the truth. And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry. But I do believe there is hope for us yet, 'cause there's millions of people who cannot forget the way Johnny Cash brought a tear to their eyes, or how Marty Robbins painted Texas skies. What happened to country, 3 chords and the truth? And who's gonna step up and fill their big shoes, writing songs about outlaws, singing all night, and songs that'll make a grown man cry? A grown man cry. A grown man cry. I won't let country die.